This isn't normal reality TV drama anymore. What allegedly happened behind the scenes is being described by insiders as one of the most disturbing money moves the genre has ever seen. People close to production say they were left genuinely shaken, because this time it wasn't about ego or screen time, it was about control through cash. According to multiple whispers coming out of Flagstaff, Kody Brown allegedly refused to sign key filming permissions connected to Janelle's wedding unless his financial demands were met. And it didn't stop at the venue. Insiders claim he tried to block Truly and Savannah from appearing on camera unless he was paid first. Not later. Not negotiated. Paid. Let that land for a second. A father allegedly turning his own daughters into leverage. The rumored demand was enormous. Sources say he wanted a massive cut of the wedding specials budget, arguing that the children are the emotional core of the show and that without his approval, they don't appear. In his mind, he still holds the authority, still owns the narrative, still controls the gate. What makes this so dark is the timing. Everyone knows fans are emotionally invested in seeing Janelle happy. He knows it too. He understands that a wedding without the kids would feel incomplete. And according to insiders, that emotional pressure is exactly what he was using. It wasn't negotiation. It was emotional blackmail. But while legal letters were allegedly being drafted and threats quietly passed around, Janelle and Christine were already thinking 3 steps ahead. After decades of navigating control and manipulation, they didn't react emotionally. They got strategic. Here's where the story flips. Sources now believe the real wedding never belonged to the cameras at all. The actual vows, the meaningful commitment, the moment that truly mattered reportedly happened privately before production even arrived. No crew, no contracts, no permissions, just family, love, and a phone recording memories that no one else could monetize. That one decision changed everything. Because once the marriage happens off camera, it's no longer a product. There's nothing to tax, nothing to block, nothing to hold hostage. The leverage vanished instantly. By the time cameras rolled, Janelle was already married. What TLC filmed afterward wasn't a wedding in the legal or religious sense. It was a celebration, a party, and that distinction matters more than most people realize. You can't cancel a party you don't control. You can't demand approval for joy. Insiders say production lawyers shut down last-minute pressure attempts with one simple fact. This isn't a ceremony. It's a gathering. And that's when everything shifted. Without him present, the mood was completely different. No tension, no fear, no emotional landmines. For the first time in years, the family looked relaxed. The laughter wasn't forced. The smiles stayed. The kids were there, not as bargaining chips, but as people. Truly and Savannah weren't being managed or negotiated over. They were just living in the moment. One source even claims Savannah silenced her phone for the entire night, choosing peace over pressure. That single act said more than any argument ever could. And then came the moment no one expected. During the celebration, Janelle's new husband reportedly made a gesture that stunned the room. Quietly, without cameras chasing reactions, he offered real support for the kids' futures. Education, stability, security, no conditions, no contracts, no control. The contrast was brutal. One man allegedly demanding money to allow presence, another offering money to ensure opportunity. Several of the older kids were reportedly emotional, not because of the money itself, but because of what it represented. Care without manipulation, support without fear. When word of this reached Flagstaff, insiders say it didn't spark gratitude. It sparked anger. Because to someone who treats relationships like transactions, generosity feels threatening. This entire situation has reportedly forced TLC to reassess everything. Executives are said to be questioning whether Kody is still valuable to the story or whether he has become a legal and emotional liability. Blocking access, demanding fees, creating chaos, none of it serves the show anymore. And here's the irony no one can ignore. By trying to extract money from one event, he may have put his entire role at risk. Footage without him is lighter, more emotional, more real. The audience feels it. The numbers show it. The network sees it. This wasn't just about a wedding. It was about power, And what happens when that power disappears? Janelle didn't fight the control. She stepped around it. She didn't pay the fee. She protected the moment. She didn't argue for peace. She created it. And that may be the most powerful ending this story could ever have. What started as a celebration quietly turned into something far darker, and most viewers still have no idea how close this moment came to being completely sabotaged. According to people connected to production, what unfolded behind the scenes wasn't simple family tension. It was a calculated money play that crossed a line even reality TV rarely touches. Whispers coming out of Flagstaff suggest that just days before filming was set to begin, unexpected legal pressure suddenly appeared. Contracts stalled. Permissions froze. And at the center of it all was Kody Brown, allegedly refusing to sign off on critical filming approvals tied to Janelle's wedding. But this wasn't about scheduling conflicts or emotional distance. It was about money. Sources claim Kody allegedly made it clear that certain people, including his own daughters, would not appear on camera unless he was financially compensated first. Not as a courtesy, not as a bonus, as a requirement. The message, according to insiders, was blunt. Without his agreement, the footage doesn't happen. That detail alone has left many insiders stunned. Because this wasn't about him attending or participating. This was about controlling access, controlling visibility, and ultimately, controlling profit. The alleged demand wasn't minor either. Rumors circulating within production circles suggest he wanted a massive share of the wedding special's budget, arguing that the emotional weight of the show rests on the children, and therefore he should be paid if they appear. In his view, he still held the authority to decide when and how they were seen. What makes this so disturbing is that he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew fans were emotionally invested in seeing Janelle finally happy. He knew viewers wanted to see the kids celebrating freely after years of tension. And insiders believe he used that emotional investment as leverage. It wasn't a conversation. It was pressure. A wedding without the kids wouldn't feel whole. He knew that. And according to people close to the situation, that incomplete feeling was part of the strategy. Create discomfort. Create urgency. Force a payout. But while the tension was building and legal conversations were quietly escalating, Janelle wasn't panicking. Neither was Christine. After decades of navigating control, unpredictability, and emotional games, they recognized the pattern immediately. Instead of reacting, they planned. And this is where the story takes a turn no one expected. Behind the scenes, insiders now believe the most important moment never belonged to the cameras at all. The actual commitment, the part that truly mattered, was quietly separated from the production entirely. No crew, no lights, no contracts, just a private moment shared with the people who actually mattered. By doing that, everything changed. Because once that line was crossed, the power disappeared. There was nothing left to negotiate, nothing left to block, nothing left to hold hostage. The wedding existed, whether cameras were present or not. By the time filming was ready to begin, the most meaningful part was already done. And that's when it reportedly hit production that this wasn't a wedding special anymore. It was simply a celebration, a gathering, a moment of joy that didn't require anyone's permission. Attempts to apply pressure at that stage reportedly went nowhere. The rules were different now. The leverage was gone. What followed felt lighter. According to those who witnessed it, the energy shifted completely. Without the looming fear of disruption, the atmosphere changed. Smiles looked real. Laughter lingered. The tension that had followed the family for years simply wasn't there. The kids weren't being managed or monitored. They weren't being negotiated over. They were just present, enjoying something that felt normal for the first time in a long time. One small detail shared by a source says everything. At one point, Savannah reportedly silenced her phone and didn't check it again for the rest of the night. No interruptions, no guilt, just peace. And that moment symbolized something bigger. For the first time, control didn't win. This wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, and that's what made it powerful. While arguments were expected, none came. While chaos was predicted, it never arrived. Instead, something else happened. A line was crossed, not through confrontation, but through independence. And this was only the beginning. Once it became clear that the real commitment had already happened, everything else started to unravel, especially for the person who thought he still held the strings. According to insiders, the realization hit hard. The leverage was gone. The signatures, the threats, the financial pressure, none of it mattered anymore. But instead of backing down, the situation allegedly escalated. People close to production say renewed demands followed, this time more aggressive. The focus shifted fully to the children. The argument, as it's being described, was that if the kids appeared in any film setting connected to the event, payment was still owed. Not as a favor, as a right. A right he believed came with being their father. That belief shocked even seasoned crew members. Using minors as negotiating tools crossed a line that many say permanently changed how production viewed him. It wasn't about attendance anymore. It was about ownership of faces, moments, and stories. Meanwhile, the atmosphere on the ground couldn't have been more different. At the celebration itself, there was no tension hanging in the air, no walking on eggshells, no one bracing for an outburst. People laughed freely. Conversations flowed without fear of being corrected or controlled. The absence was noticeable, and oddly, it made everything better. The kids were at the center of that shift. Truly and Savannah weren't being pulled aside or monitored. They weren't being told where to stand or how long to stay on camera. They moved through the night like normal teenagers, smiling, joking, and existing without pressure. According to one source, that freedom was something they hadn't felt in years. And then there was the contrast no one could ignore. While legal emails and financial arguments were allegedly being sent from afar, something entirely different was happening in the room. Janelle's new partner wasn't making demands. He wasn't asserting authority. He wasn't asking for recognition. He was simply showing up. Quietly, without fanfare, he made it clear that his priority wasn't screen time or control, it was the kids. Their stability, their future, their sense of safety. What he offered wasn't transactional. There were no conditions attached. That difference hit hard. Several of the older kids were reportedly emotional, not because of the moment itself, but because of what it revealed. They were seeing two completely different models of adulthood in real time. One rooted in control, the other rooted in care. When word of this reached Flagstaff, insiders say it didn't land well. What should have been reassuring instead triggered anger. Because in the mind of someone who equates love with leverage, generosity feels like an attack. And that reaction only confirmed what many had already suspected. This was never about a wedding. It was about power slipping away. For years, control had been maintained through authority, money, and fear of loss. But that night proved something undeniable. Life continued just fine without it. Better, even. From a production standpoint, this was a turning point. Crew members reportedly noticed how different the footage felt. The energy was lighter. The interactions were real. There was no need to manufacture tension because it simply wasn't there. The story was unfolding naturally, and it was compelling. That's when a quiet question began circulating behind the scenes. If the show works better without him, why keep bending around him? Executives are said to be paying attention, not just to the legal disruptions, but to the emotional temperature of the scenes. What they're seeing is a family finally healing, once the source of chaos stepped out of frame. And the most telling part? No one asked where he was. No one paused the night for his absence. No empty chair was mourned. No moment was delayed. The celebration moved forward. And in that silence, something became clear. This wasn't a rebellion. It was a replacement. A new center had formed, one built on peace instead of pressure, support instead of strings, presence instead of permission. And once that shift happens, there's no going back. Because when people realize they don't need your approval to be happy, your control is already gone. And this story was far from over. As the footage started coming in, something shifted behind the scenes that no one could ignore. What producers expected to be just another tense chapter suddenly looked very different on the monitors. Without constant interference, the scenes felt calmer, more emotional, and strangely more powerful. The absence that was supposed to hurt the story was actually strengthening it. People close to the editing room say this was the moment executives began asking uncomfortable questions. Not about budgets or contracts, but about necessity. Was the chaos really essential, or had it been mistaken for content all these years? The legal pressure that had been applied earlier now began to backfire. Instead of forcing compliance, it triggered scrutiny. Lawyers reportedly started reviewing obligations on both sides, and the conclusion forming quietly was unsettling. Blocking access, delaying permissions, and threatening production doesn't make someone powerful, it makes them a liability. And liabilities don't lead shows. They get written around. At the same time, word of what happened at the celebration spread fast. Not gossip, confirmation. Crew members talked. Assistants noticed. Editors compared footage. The difference was impossible to deny. When control disappeared, authenticity showed up. The kids were the clearest example. On camera, they didn't look rehearsed or guarded. They looked comfortable. They joked naturally. They leaned into each other without fear of being corrected or judged. It was the kind of presence viewers feel instantly, even if they can't explain it. That contrast created a problem, but not for Janelle. For the person who believed he was still the center. Industry whispers suggest frustration quickly turned into panic. Because once a network realizes it can move forward without you, leverage evaporates. Threats stop working. Demands lose weight. Silence replaces negotiation. And that silence is terrifying to someone who needs control to feel relevant. Behind closed doors, conversations allegedly shifted from "how do we fix this?" to "how do we protect the show?" That's a very different question. One assumes cooperation. The other assumes separation. The irony is brutal. The attempt to force value exposed the lack of it. What made things worse was timing. Audience sentiment had already changed. Viewers were openly rooting for freedom, growth, and peace, not arguments and ultimatums. The footage from the celebration aligned perfectly with that shift. It wasn't dramatic because it didn't need to be. It was real. And real is dangerous to someone whose power depends on conflict. Meanwhile, the kids weren't waiting for permission anymore. They were moving forward emotionally in ways that couldn't be reversed. Bonds were forming. Trust was rebuilding. And it was happening without fear of consequences. That's when insiders say the realization finally landed. This wasn't a temporary setback. It was a permanent change in direction. Control wasn't being challenged anymore. It was being ignored. From a storytelling perspective, that changes everything. Because once the narrative no longer revolves around one person's approval, the entire structure collapses. The show evolves. The focus shifts. And the old center becomes a background character. Or disappears entirely. People close to production say plans are already being discussed quietly. Not announcements, not press releases, but options. Reduced presence. Limited access. Reframed storylines. Futures that don't require constant negotiation. And the most damaging part? The audience is ready for it. The cheers aren't for dominance anymore. They're for healing. And once a network understands that healing drives engagement better than hostility, the decision becomes simple. This wasn't just a failed power move. It was a reveal. A reveal of who still mattered, who still connected, and who no longer fit the story being told. And with every calm scene, every genuine smile, and every moment of peace captured on camera, the message became louder without a single word being spoken. The show didn't need control to survive. It needed honesty. And that realization was only setting the stage for what came next, because the consequences of trying to hold happiness hostage were about to arrive in ways no contract could protect against.